Hello there. Thanks so much for joining us for the Long Comics Book Club, a bi-weekly podcast about long comics, also known as manga and graphic novels. My name is Shane, and I'm the older brother. I'm joined by Spence, the younger brother. How's it going, Spence?
Things are going well. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Happy Thursday, happy Saturday, happy whenever it is that you're listening to us. Glad you could join us. If you're new to the show, we're happy to have you here. And if you've been joining us the whole time, wow, what commitment. What what incredible devotion. We
Yeah,
appreciate having you along the road with us as well.
it's been
It,
like 6 months at this point, huh? So yeah.
yeah, if you've been here the whole time, way to go. You get a gold star on our end of things. If you are new and you're not familiar, what we do with our podcast here is that for the first half of the show, we're going to be talking about the long comic we read over the past 2 weeks. And today that is Batman Year One. And we'll give our reactions, takeaways, discussion points, book club things. And for the second part of the show, we'll be chatting about some of the other visual media we've consumed recently. To make sure you avoid spoilers, we'll include time codes in the episode description. And of course, we'll then end the show with Spence introducing the long comic for the next podcast, which will be coming out on July 5th. To be notified of when
Uh,
I think, yeah,
wow. Yeah.
yes. To be notified of when the podcast is out, you can follow our Blue Sky or Instagram at Long Comics Book Club. We also have all these links on our link tree, one of which is a link to VesperiaComics.com because Spence, of course, is the owner and proprietor of Vesperia Comics, not just an online store, but physically located at 1935 West Broadway in Vancouver, British Columbia. Spence, what are the updates from the shop?
Well, the big one is so between us recording this and it actually being released, this will happen, but we've got the Adam Kubert signing coming in on this Saturday. So we're really looking forward to that. Yeah, by the time you hear this, it's already happened. So
So you can be excited next podcast to
next,
find out how was the
yeah,
big signing with the Adam Kubert.
yes.
For those who may not be familiar with Adam Kubert, who is Adam Kubert, Spence?
So Adam Kubert is a second generation comic book artist who's most famous for his work with Wolverine in the Wolverine series, particularly in the 90s. And right now he's the lead artist for this big reboot on X-Men with like giant sized X-Men #1, which just came out a couple weeks ago at this point. And yeah, he's the artist for it. So
Wow. And so big name coming to big old Vesperia Comics.
yes,
And
yeah.
if you were really hoping to get to meet Adam Kubert and you're now realizing, oh no, the podcast's coming out and I missed him. Well, you should have been following Vesperia Comics on Instagram.
Yes, because good God, it's all I've been talking with. Yeah,
Yeah, you would have known. You would have been there on Saturday.
yeah.
So this is your lesson learned. Maybe you also missed Ming Chen, because
Well,
you
yeah.
were following.
That one had a lot less of a
Yeah,
lead
that
up to
didn't
that
have as
one.
much of a lead up. But if you don't want to miss whatever next surprise guest star is coming to
Yeah.
Vesperia Comics, manga and comics, go drop them a follow on Instagram to make sure you don't miss any other cool
Yeah.
surprise appearances, and get your in while you can. But of course, Vesperia Manga and Comics is the place to pick up your long comics, including the one that we are talking about today. Jumping right into it. We're moving along quickly. We're on the run today. We're
Yeah.
hitting top speed. Uh, so let's just jump into talking about Batman Year One, written by Frank Miller, the incredible art by David Mazzucchelli, and then Richmond Lewis. Also, I believe he does the some of the coloring and inking in there as well.
Okay.
Uh, but we're just diving right into it. So no trigger warnings. It is violent, PG-13. Just be aware that there is violence in there. There is some blood, but there's no gore. There's no
Yeah.
um there's children in peril, but
Sort of.
everyone's okay.
Oh, well, actually,
Sort of.
yes. Oh, yeah. Actually, I
We'll
just
get
remember
well,
the end is very definitively child in peril. But yeah.
yeah. So for those that haven't read the book yet, this is where we'll just give you the heads up. If
Uh,
you haven't read it, but you're interested, and you want to avoid spoilers, this is your time to look at the time codes, jump ahead. But if you haven't read the book and want to listen anyways, that's also excellent. And maybe this conversation will help you decide if it's worth picking up or not. And so, Batman, Year One. Spence, kicking us off. Why did you choose this for our long comic?
because like to put it bluntly, it's really, really good. It's a very good Batman comic. It's yeah, like it's just really good, and it also has some fun parts of it is if you compare it to modern, probably more so than any other single work, is its reference to the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. A
I was gonna
ton of
say
that. Yeah.
instead of calling it Batman Year One, we can just call it Batman Begins, the prequel. Uh,
Yeah.
because there's so many calls to the film. So obviously this came out in 1986, I think we had discovered
Yeah,
before.
or 87, I think. And it was a big part. So this is post Crisis on Infinite Earths at DC. So after post their big reboot. And then they were like, we need to like, we're gonna redo the origin stories of all of our big superheroes. And then when they get to Batman, they're like, Batman's origin story is still great. We don't need to change anything about it, but let's still have like our best guy like do a modern retake on
Mhm.
how Batman the start of Batman.
Mhm. And Frank Miller being said best guy.
Yes, yes. So this is af post Dark Knight Returns.
Mhm. Okay, I'm not familiar with Dark Knight
Okay, so
Returns.
yeah, so the Dark Knight
Post
Returns is
that.
like the one with I think we've even mentioned this on the podcast. It and Watchmen are like the two 1980s like growing up with these like comic book superheroes like are growing up a little bit and they're like really set the tone that would be like 1980s comic books.
Oh, wow. And so this follows that, which makes sense because it's certainly a pretty dark tone. It's not dark harsh, but it's almost like a film noir of comic
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
more to the point, it's very different from like 1960s Adam West Batman.
Yes, very
Yeah,
much so.
because remember, because like before this, that was like more what Batman was known for before Dark Knight
Mhm.
Returns. Before Dark Knight, yeah, the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, well, there was a really good part at the end of this with was it Frank Miller or David Mazzucchelli that were writing a little bit in the back part, and they were talking about the Adam West show and the inspiration and how
Oh
people
yeah,
think that it's over the top. It's like, no, that's what the comic was written like.
yeah,
That's
that's by David, the artist,
yeah, David Mazzucchelli.
Mazzucchelli. There we
I'm
go.
cheating because I have his name in front of me.
Yeah,
Uh, but that is really it wasn't just Adam West being goofy, but the in the comic itself, Batman was goofy. When you
yeah,
really just think about his villains, without some of their backstories, like the Riddler, the Joker, like these are without
yeah,
some of the intense things we learn about them later on, they're pretty goofy. The Scarecrow, like
yeah.
the,
Well, yeah, and then it's kind of
the
interesting because like Batman's had that whole arc because he started out as in the 40s he was an insanely gritty hero. Then
mm,
the Robin shows up, and then the Hays Code comes in, and they have to start getting campy again before going back into the 80s. It's really fascinating all the tone of Batman how it's changed over the years.
mhm. Yeah, and so I mean, and then it all circles back around from 1986. Then it comes back with, like you were saying, Batman Begins pulls a lot out of this.
Yes, but
Uh,
both like direct homages with like the swarm of bats and stuff, and also like
mm,
tonally and stylistically with like the mob and all that being a center point.
yeah, very much so. Makes me want to rewatch the films, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so one question I did have for you. So Batman Year One, how do we feel about that as a title? Because you mentioned Batman, what was it, Dark Knight or Batman
The
uh
Dark Knight Returns is
Dark Knight
the
Returns.
yeah,
Yeah, and like Batman Begin, and then the Dark. That's interesting. So then the Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's as well.
yeah.
Um, how do you feel about Batman Year One as a title then? Is it just sort of, are we okay with it essentially just being
Yeah. It's
scripter?
it's also funny too, because like since this came out, uh title year one is just like a default that DC does all the time now.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. It created the mold.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I think it does almost a disservice, I would say, to the book, which is interesting because usually I really like titles, but I don't love this one because I think that when I hear Batman Year One, I think it's just going to be sort of like a plot summary, sort of like
Mm.
that it's almost its intention is just sort of be like, this is the information you need to know to understand this character. but that it's obviously much more than that. But maybe that's because maybe the old me somehow got jaded from reading Here Once that I don't remember anymore. But maybe there's some other DC Year One
Yeah.
varieties that I'm holding against this.
Yeah,
Uh,
you definitely read Justice League Year One at one point, but
they okay, I believe
I
you.
yeah, I can't tell you if any of the other
Mhm.
ones.
Yeah, maybe doesn't suggest that something new is being brought in, but that
Mm,
I mean, as you were saying, this is sort of like it takes a lot of what already existed, but builds on it more. Uh, I mean, I don't know what a good title would be, but
Batman
uh,
Begins.
yeah, I mean, actually, though, Batman Begins would be a really good title for this book. That's very
Yeah.
funny. And I mean, that's why it's a great movie title. That's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But actually that brings up the interesting point is this is even more as much as it's Batman's year one, it's even more so about Jim Gordon's year one.
I was going to say, this is almost just a Jim Gordon is very much more the protagonist in this.
Yeah.
He has more of an arc. He's more complicated. We follow him more closely. I was very interested in that. And so why do you think that was the angle this was done from?
Yeah, it's an interesting like because I think it wanted to show because a large part of this story was about like the mob and how corrupt Gotham is. And that's really not visible through Batman. Because Batman's just going to punch the bad guys. But like to really go into how messed up the whole system is, you really kind of need a guy on the inside. I think that's what what Gordon's there for.
Hmm. Well, and Gordon is, I think he's also just a better protagonist. And maybe that's what makes it so strong is that he is also very flawed.
Oh yeah.
To see him be unfaithful with to his pregnant wife and have to deal with the ramifications of that and um that he stays out late and like ignores her and but
Yeah.
then that
And
he
then yeah, and he's a good cop, but he's also like not doing a lot like things are so corrupt in the thing that like he's just kind of letting a lot of corruption just kind of like pass him by. Like it's
Mhm.
kind of a not his problem look feeling to it.
Yeah, well,
Like
until it
he
becomes personal, then
yeah.
he like takes like absolutely beats up the other officer who had it
Yes.
coming, but still like
Yeah, but like more to the point though, like he's fighting the mob, but he never actually fights the cops. Like he directly fights his partner, but like the internal affairs stuff really isn't his forte.
it's yeah, he doesn't really get involved with the politics, you mean?
Yeah.
That's yeah, he just does his work. But also is way cooler of a character than I had known before. Just with like the fact that he beat was it yeah, Flass, that he beats this absolute gargantuan cop in a fist fight. Uh who was what did he say he was? Like a Green Beret? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he beats him in a fist fight, and he like knew that he was gonna win. And it's like, who is Jim Gordon? Like, he's so cool. That I loved following Jim Gordon. I thought that was a
Yeah.
great choice. I thought that was super interesting. Um, and that there's so much to develop there, and that you see him be unfaithful, but then open up and to be honest to his wife. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, why? I mean, I guess if they tried to pitch it as a Batman, as a Jim Gordon comic.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit harder to sell.
And at the end of the day, it's still very much a Batman comic. Like they are our dual protagonists. Like Batman is
Hmm.
still a huge part of this, and like
Hmm.
there are some if you like badassness, good God, Batman's like the whole thing with the bat swarm and the bombed building and surrounded by SWAT and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. But I also appreciated you get Selena Kyle in there as well.
Yep.
And that's also a great setup for her, just showing that very similar perspective as Batman, but like willfully violent.
Yes.
Uh, that Roman is past the mob boss is passed out in front of her. And she still scratches up his face, even though he can't fight back. Very great characters in here. Super interesting. Uh, Yeah, as you said, certainly speaking highly of it. Really, really great. Super interesting. Jim Gordon really is the reason to pick this up, I would say. I think, like you said, there's lots of great Batman stuff, but I think it's because all the Batman stuff, it's all there's no retell. It's just sort of retelling
Yeah.
a story that we all know.
Yeah, like I said, yeah. So this was them updating the histories of their big guys was this time, but Batman didn't need like the same old Batman start. Like
Mhm.
it's barely changed over the last coming up on 90 years now.
Yeah.
Or
The
80 years. 80 year 20
right.
1938. So, yeah.
Yeah, 90 years.
Yeah, coming up on 90 years. God.
Poof, that's crazy to think about. Uh, but I mean, who doesn't love Batman?
Oh yeah.
Um,
It's kind of crazy it took us this long to read a Batman comic. I'm sure there'll be more
yeah,
coming.
that's unsurprising. This is certainly, I think that this is, yeah, it really does set the tone for what became the most popular Batman stuff. When you think of all the Batman, Nolan movies, the most recent Batman one with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
I keep meaning to watch The Penguin. Have you watched Penguin yet?
No, I haven't. Yeah, it's also another
Ah,
one I want to
keep
watch.
forgetting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But very much all the like dark, gritty. I mean, I think a part of that though in this one as well is the art is so good.
Yeah.
It just
Yes.
absolutely adds to it. It really is so much on shadows, so dark.
But
Uh,
which, which to put another little random tidbit about this was originally Frank Miller was supposed to be doing the art as well.
oh, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
Right, but he
So
said no.
yeah, I want to concentrate on the story, which is good because Frank Miller's like a decent artist. I wouldn't call him great at it. Like he has a distinct style, but it's also like very. I'm glad he, yeah, concentrated on the art writing.
Mhm. Yeah, and because what Mazzucchelli does is really, really excellent. The silhouettes, all these shadows, the way that he plays around with lights from like gunshots and hanging lights during interrogation, and um, it really felt like looking at a dark film, not just a superhero, bright colors, vibrant.
Yeah,
Uh, it really grounded it, which
yeah,
I think they
it's
talk about
good
in
choice of
the,
word. Yeah, grounded.
yeah, they talk about in it later as well. Batman's a tricky superhero because you want him to be both realistic because it's a guy in a suit,
Yes,
but also the things that are happening are surreal. So how do you marry those two things? Where you want it to be reality based, but that you also don't want people to be like, there's no way that could happen in real life. So
yeah, right.
how do you marry those two things? Um, but the art, I think, is a big part of that. For sure it is. That really makes it something else. It makes it feel like an old detective story, or
Yeah,
one of the what
a detective comic, as it was.
a detective comic, perhaps one may say. That's very funny. But there isn't too much of Batman doing detective work in this. Uh,
No, not at all. Actually, when you mentioned that, yeah.
no, it's really much more of an action comic. Uh,
Hmm.
so for those not familiar, can you what is an action comic and a detective
Yeah,
comic?
so Detective DC, fun fact, so DC Comics stands for Detective Comics. Um and that was the Batman's first appearance was in Detective Comics number 18, I think.
Hmm.
And Action Comics number 1 is the first appearance of Superman.
Hmm.
So, and then those two lines are still going, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So Detective Comics, they're both over 1,000 at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are they introducing like new heroes and stuff in them? Do
At this point, no. Action Comics is just a Superman comic, Superman story, like a Superman.
uh
and Detective Comics is a Batman one, and they've kept those two names going for so long.
That makes sense. They're committed to it,
Yeah.
uh, which is a reasonable thing to do. Um, I mean, there's so much that you can really do with these characters, and that they really do operate fully separate from one another, which is why it's always so interesting, like the Batman and Superman, when they really do occupy very, would you say
Yes.
they occupy different spaces?
Very much so, which is always the interesting thing is they're supposed to be in the same world, which is
Hmm.
always like, couldn't Superman just solve all of Batman's problems? But like, there's more to it than that. And also, there's like that famous, I don't know, theory with that like Superman would just immediately collapse if ever he had to fight Batman's villains. He would have no idea what to do.
Because wait, why?
Because
Why?
they're just
What is
like
the
they fight him on an axis that Superman just would not be prepared to fight. It's
Oh,
like, yeah, so it's like going into it like a very famous, some people, some would say infamous one is you know the Injustice games.
no.
Okay, well they're a DC, they're made by the Mortal Kombat guys, and they're DC comic fighting games.
Oh, I thought you meant like it was like a comic book line. Okay,
Oh, but
yes,
it
I've
also
heard of
is a
it.
comic book line.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but then like because part of the plot of that is this the Joker decides to screw with Superman, and that causes like Superman to go completely evil because he does terrible things.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is what's interesting about and I guess it's great that they also have a call to that in this. That you have Captain Loeb like kidnapping Barbara Gordon and little baby. Is it James Gordon?
Yeah,
The baby? I have questions
yeah.
about that
Well,
in a second. Um, and that
it's
that
oh actually, yeah.
is
Is it Barbara or is it right? Because it's a boy. Because it's
yeah.
Jim Gordon's has a son named James Gordon Jr. who has at multiple times been a supervillain and it's comic books man.
What?
So yeah, I think Barbara. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
news
then
to me because I was gonna say I thought that Batgirl was Jim Gordon's child.
she is.
Okay. But he also has a son.
He also has a son. He has two kids. In
Oh,
typical, yeah.
wow. Wait, what supervillain is James?
I'm trying to remember. I think he was the Joker at some point or something.
What?
It's this is hard to yeah. I can't remember the exact. This
There's
is
too many, the challenge of comics when you
yeah.
get
There's so
into
much other stuff going on, and
yeah.
yeah,
Which is why it's sometimes nice to just bring it back down to crime families and
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
bring it
yes.
back down to that level.
Someday I'll suggest a comic that requires one of those like PhDs and understanding other random stories
Yeah.
that happened in the past. But for now, we're good with yeah, self-contained stuff so far.
Yeah, exactly. We're happy with that. And I mean, that's also one of the joys of Batman is that it's these are not complex. These are evil villains who do evil things that fall within the realm of what a horrendous person would do. They are
Yeah.
regular people doing awful things.
Mhm.
Regular people doing inhumane things. Whereas you have Superman is super people doing super
Yeah.
villainous things. Uh, yeah, but really a great read. Is this sort of, who do you think reads this? Is this for everyone? Is this if you're interested in Batman? Who,
This, yeah, this feels like pretty much for everyone. Like, honestly, if you have any interest in Batman, it's a great place to start. It's called Year
Mhm.
One, and like, yeah,
And it really is not just about Batman. The Batman part is good. It's standard Batman. It's great to see his backstory. Only to a degree though. You don't get even into seeing like the death of his parents. You just see the
no. Which,
him
hey,
returning. But you see him like figuring out the bat suit and getting
yeah,
beat up really early on and messing up and making mistakes, and that's part of
yeah.
it as well.
Which I guess that's yeah. Speaking of like future stuff, that really comes in with the Robert Pattinson Batman. That aspect.
I don't remember a lot of the Robert Pattinson
Oh,
one.
okay, yeah. The Robert Pattinson Batman also gets beat up a lot and makes a bunch of mistakes, and
Mm.
That same level of like learning. He's learning. He's young.
Yeah, that movie makes me sad.
I liked it.
It was so good, and then as soon as they got to the like big bombastic flooding the arena, I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, boo. This isn't a Batman plot anymore. I mean, this I guess the same thing would be said of the third Batman Nolan movie. Um, where it's
Yeah.
just that's when it gets super big. I think that Batman is at its best when it's small scale. That's
Mm,
why Batman Begins is so great. That's why The Dark Knight is like one of the best film, not just Batman stuff, but like the best films.
yeah.
Is that even though Joker's sort of like threatening the city, it still feels really small scale, high stakes because it's like the personal attacks that you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Yes. It's just one crazy guy managing to like wheel like yeah, it's still despite the fact it's like a whole entire city is getting thrown into chaos because of it, it's still just like one guy who knows the perfect buttons to press to cause it to
Yeah.
happen.
And to try that he's trying so hard to mess with Batman and
Yeah.
doing so successfully, just trying to break him.
Yeah.
Uh, boy, what a,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's a reason he's so iconic.
Yeah.
That Batman, it's, yeah. Again, this makes me want to rewatch all the Batman stuff. It's it's great to understand where some of these cultural icons of the 21st century have come from.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can't believe I got through it without doing the Batman voice.
Oh.
Uh, because I mean, everyone has their Batman voice, but it's fun. I still get to throw it out there every once in a while when I read to my child, throw in my Batman voice.
Nice. Yeah,
Uh,
right. Because you're reading Batman story, like those like
yeah,
5 minute stories.
exactly.
Yeah.
The 5 minute stories that are sometimes comic book accurate, sometimes not, but
Yeah.
I digress.
But at this point, comic book accurate. Who knows what comic book accurate even means anymore?
That's true. Yeah, really, who even knows? Doesn't even matter anymore
Like
at this point.
that's basically what DC decided has just agreed on. Like, don't worry about it.
Mm,
If you want to make something canon, sure, canon. Don't want to not worry about something from the past. Don't worry about
that's
it.
terrifying. What a terrifying stance for them to take. But yeah, to wrap it up, 1987, Batman Year One, Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli with Richard Lewis. Great, great graphic novel.
Yeah.
You don't need any kind of pre-reading to do this. Even though we're
No-
talking about how it's reiterating the Batman story, you don't
Yeah.
need to even know what a Batman is to read this.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, it would be probably really rewarding to go into it with fresh eyes.
Yeah. I've got, like imagine going in not even knowing it was a Batman story. So when he actually like the bat breaks through the window, it's like, oh my God, he's gonna become
He's
Batman.
gonna be Batman. That would be very cool to experience. Uh, yeah, really strongly recommended, I think, from both of us, if that's
Yeah.
not clear yet. Uh,
Yes.
really, really good.
Yeah. Probably the best thing, in my humble opinion, the best thing Frank Miller ever made.
Ooh, interesting. I would have
Yeah.
to read more Frank Miller to
Yeah.
comment on that.
And we also, which I guess slight tangent, Frank Miller kind of went off the deep end at some point. So he's made some really weird stuff. So
Which is saying, I mean, Sin City, I assume, is before he went off the deep end.
yes.
And that is a really weird one if you
Yeah.
really think about it. So if it got weirder than Sin City, oh boy.
Yeah. It's all the two works that people look at and are like, dude, are called Holy Terror and All-Star Batman.
All-Star Batman.
Yeah.
Batman canon still?
Sort of. It's like a weird alternate universe thing. It's fun. It's where the
Oh.
panel of Batman going, "I'm the goddamn Batman" comes from.
I am not I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
aware of that as a thing. That's pretty funny though.
Yeah, and then Holy Terror was a Batman comic that was like Batman beating up was like a post 9/11 Batman beating up like Al-Qaeda terrorists. And it was so like, dude, you can't make like this is like peak like 2004 post 9/11. And DC was like, dude, you can't make this. And they had to like sand off all the Batmans. Like he self-published it himself with all the Batmans like yeah, this is not actually Batman anymore. It's like legally distinct Batman doing it.
What? That's crazy. That is a crazy thing to hear about. Boy. Uh yeah, well now I want to read that one because that sounds bonkers.
Oh, it's
Have you read it?
yeah, I have read it.
Wow, I'm impressed you found it. That sounds like
Yeah.
the kind of thing to be like really hard to locate.
It's kind of infamous. I found it at a garage sale once.
Wow, crazy. Okay. Okay, maybe we won't read that one because
Oh
then
no,
we
it's not going for one of these.
yeah, it's not the kind of thing that is carried in Vesperia manga and comics.
Yeah, it's like trigger warning Islamophobia to the power of like 50.
Yeesh. Oh dear, Frank. Well,
Yeah.
let's just focus on Batman Year One, where the
Yeah.
only thing we're hating is the mob, who deserves all of the hate because
Yes.
they kidnap babies and
Yeah.
put babies in need and throw them off bridges. So the mob deserves everything that's coming to them.
Yeah.
But other than this terrifying Frank Miller alternative comic, what else have you been enjoying? Lately? You did not read that this week, but
No.
what have you been reading the past few weeks? Is there any movie, TV shows, games, or books that have stood out to you?
Well, the big one is I watched the new season of Andor.
I haven't got to that yet. No spoilers.
Yeah, so no spoilers. Only spoiler is it's just as good as season one.
Wow, which is
Yeah,
high praise.
very
So,
high praise.
Andor, if anyone listening doesn't know, is the best Star Wars IP. Fight me.
It is unquestionably the best thing to come out of Disney era Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like I think there's literally no debate on that in any way, shape, or form.
I would say it goes the first three film. Well, I haven't rewatched the first. I mean, the first three films are kind
Yeah,
of timeless,
that's
iconic.
kind of the problem is comparing some contemporary thing to the first three Star Wars films is like,
It's also
yeah,
understanding the cultural importance of the first three. But
yeah,
yeah, Andor is essentially what they should just be doing with Star Wars. It's
yeah,
the way to do it. I'm excited for season two. Uh,
yes. And continues my going theory for Star Wars, which is Jedi are the least interesting part of Star Wars,
that's true.
because this is
Well,
all about it's spies. It's all about
yeah,
spies.
yeah.
Spies in the rebellion.
I love Andor. Well, I'm excited for season two. Mandalorian's also super good. Mandalorian fell off,
Yeah, like
unfortunately,
season
but
one Mandalorian is very good,
season
but
one Mandalorian top tier.
both seasons of Andor are better than season one of Mandalorian. So
Wow,
that's
okay.
my making the strong statements here.
Yeah. And it's done, right?
Oh yes,
Season two. Okay.
it
Yeah.
basically ends 1 minute before Rogue One.
Right. Yeah,
Or
okay.
not even like 1 minute. It ends like during Rogue One.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I know that I'm sure Disney would have loved a way to keep Andor going because it's so popular.
Yeah,
But everyone was like, how are you going to keep this going? We know that he dies in Rogue One. So
yeah.
like you do have you've already and how old is Rogue One at this point? Like 15 years?
Oh no, it's not that old. Like 10?
Oh, okay.
Not quite
26.
10.
Okay.
But yeah,
9 years. So if you're saying, hey, spoilers, like it's been 9 years. If you haven't
yeah.
seen Rogue One yet, you
Yeah,
weren't going to.
it's. I feel like Rogue One was a 9-year-old movie that also like from moment one you were like, all these people are going to die in this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, that's also again, it's one of the it's like Andor, where because you know that the what is it called? The base blows up.
Oh, or Yavin?
Oh
No.
wait, no,
Oh
no, no.
no, Death Star. The Death Star.
Yeah, the Death Star. So you're like, or no, because in the movie they're like there was a great cost to have it to get these plans to Leia, right?
Yeah.
And so
Well,
you're
yeah.
like,
That's basically. Well, yeah. Yes.
and
Uh,
so you know that at the start of Rogue One, you're like, these people are
yeah.
not going to
And
be
also, it's
okay.
like, yeah. So, however, somehow they get the Death Star plans, but also things are probably going to go terrible because
We don't
uh,
know any of these
you
characters
don't
from
know any of
the
these characters, and
movies.
also 2 minutes into the first movie, the plans like their ship they're on gets boarded. So clearly the plans were like the plans were captured in a very precarious position.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was what makes it super interesting as well,
Yeah.
is that you kind
Yeah.
of know where it ends, but seeing how it gets there. So,
Yes. No, definitely on the docket now is to rewatch Rogue One
mm,
because I haven't watched Rogue One since it was in theaters. So
no, same here. But speaking of Disney Plus, that is my other thing I'm watching right now is Welcome to Wrexham, which
okay.
I don't know what happened at the end of the season yet, but so or no, I do know what happened, but in terms of but I mean that's what makes it such a weird show to watch. It's so interesting. I'm obs I know maybe it's not for everyone. I know Ryan Reynolds is apparently like a controversial figure for some people.
Is he? I don't know. Whatever.
But I mean everyone finds gripes with everything. But
Yeah.
I just think it's extremely interesting what they're doing. So if you're not aware of this show, it's following an English football league football team. So that is soccer for the
Yes.
those of us in North America. And like Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds try to help this team climb up the ranks to try and like reestablish this once great soccer team that has fallen down like four levels from the top tier teams. And so it's just so interesting seeing the inner workings of the soccer of like the
Mm,
football organizations and like the amount of money that goes into it and all the different things that they have to be doing and all and just like the internal uh machinations that make this giant machine run is so interesting when they're having to like get jerseys and order jerseys, but if they don't get promoted, they don't need to use these and they need new training grounds and that it costs like $2 million to replace the turf of the field.
geez.
Um, yeah, so it's super interesting, and because it's like super high drama, but also it's a documentary that they release the season at the end of the football season. And
Oh,
so
so you can look up what happens, huh?
yeah, that's why I know because it's like I follow Ryan Reynolds on Instagram, so he's obviously been talking about his soccer team and his football. I'm gonna keep on the A wrong. His football team because you can watch their games live. So it's essentially everyone knows like how the series is gonna like end each season because it's a real football
Yeah.
team. But it just makes it super interesting to what it's like what a incredibly interesting concept that obviously has also been a huge success on a couple of different levels where you have one, this show is extremely popular, but also two, the football team is doing extremely well. So it's like they keep getting promoted, which is crazy. It's a crazy thing to they I mean I'll throw out spoilers for Welcome to Wrexham for the next minute, I guess, which is the fact that they got promoted three times, which is a team has never done before.
Hmm.
So, I mean, in case you're curious, so it's at there's like I think there's like 24 teams in each league, and only the top three get promoted, and the
Okay,
bottom
yeah.
three get demoted, which makes it extremely exciting and way more high stakes than the sports we're used to.
Yeah,
Which
well,
sure, if you
yes.
suck as long as you
Yes.
have money, but
Because I guess that's the big thing. Because if you're having a bad season, good God, that doesn't just mean like for next like we'll do better next year. Is you gotta stay out the like the off of the very bottom or else.
yeah,
Yeah.
or else you're getting demoted and you, yeah, don't get as much funding and
Yeah.
super
And well and just
interesting.
people care less. That's
Exactly.
it's that simple.
Crazy. So yeah, welcome to Wrexham. Love it. Love, love, love it. Super good. So yeah, I already know how the season will end, which is pretty funny. Um, but I also need to watch. We only recently got access to Disney Plus, which is why I think we're both on Disney.
Yeah.
Is there anything from that catalog that you're eyeing or that you've been into lately?
After I finish it, the bit well, it's a movie, but there's that new Predator movie, that new like animated Predator movie.
Ooh, is it a movie? I thought it was a series. Is it
I think it's
Predators versus Predator or something? I can't
so
remember.
I don't know, something like that. Pretty sure it was a movie. Now you're
Uh,
making me curious though. But yeah. I don't know.
no. Because you're a
Which is
big,
the big advantage of Canadian Disney Plus is we get these because you have to get Hulu if you're American.
wow. It's almost like it's worth the astronomical price.
Almost.
The
The advantages of our parent our dad paying for Disney Plus and us mooching off of it.
that's true. Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, but really, what kind of if you're not mooching off a streaming service from someone else, you're not doing it. There's usually someone you should be able to borrow from. Or if you are streaming
Yeah.
something, share that login with someone else. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So that is Disney Plus. You have Crunchyroll. I have Dropout. We all have our streaming services that we
Yeah, I'm
share.
sure Dad's very happy about our Crunchyroll and Dropout.
Yeah, he's definitely all over those.
And also Dad's got Crave and Netflix and
Yeah, which don't even work anymore. So I don't even
oh, okay, well yeah.
I
I
guess
got the
I'm
Netflix working again, so but
the
yeah, Netflix
brain.
Netflix is the one that just is trying so hard to make us not be able to do this.
User locked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as we're winding down towards the end of this episode, of course, we need to introduce what's next on the reading docket. So, Spence, what do the fine folks at home and I get to look forward to reading next?
Okay. So once again, we're back to manga. And I thought it would be fun, whereas we haven't done yet. Let's do a manga you have watched the anime of.
Ooh, how do
And let's
you know?
because I know you enough because this is kind of a famous one, and I figured let's go with like one of the most famous anime of all time. Let's do the first volume of Death Note.
Ooh, okay. I have obviously watched Death Note.
Yes.
How exciting. And
Yes.
this is, of course, based on the popular hit Netflix film.
Yes, with the Willem Dafoe one.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. I
Uh,
just,
uh,
so I
yeah.
didn't know Willem Dafoe had a version of Death Note, but
He plays Ryuk in the Netflix movie.
okay, we will have to discuss this in a few weeks.
No doubt this will get brought up. But yeah, or more specifically, I guess the Black Edition of the new Death Note. So it's the first two volumes.
Okay, first
Yeah.
two volumes of Death Note, the famous horror manga.
Horror, detective, psychological thriller. Yeah.
The one of the ones that I think is sort of people's gateway into anime.
Yes. I'm not
Uh,
sure if it's still, for a very long time, it was like the most popular thing on my anime list. It's very
hmm,
much like, yeah.
well, how exciting. Okay, so something to look forward to. Death Note. What kind of version did you say it was?
It's called like the Black Edition. They're like
Oh,
special,
the Black Edition.
yeah, the sides of the pages are black paper. It's kind of a cool looking book.
Oh, ooh, okay. All right. And this is volume
This is
one.
the first volume one of the Black Edition, which I think the first two volumes, original first two volumes. If you have the old, which you could also use those, it would be the same.
All right. And so, of course, if you are also interested in reading Death Note, the Black Edition, you could check it out at VesperiaComics.com for pickup of Vesperia manga and comics if you're in the lower mainland of beautiful British Columbia, or you can also order that for Canada-wide shipping. And of course, we realize that buying a new book every 2 weeks isn't always financially viable for everyone, so consider inviting a friend to split costs or borrowing the book from a friend or local library if it's available. And that's it for episode number 11 of the Long Comics Book Club. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow our Instagram and Blue Sky for updates, as well as share your own thoughts there in the comments on Batman Year One or next week's book, Death Note, Black Edition Volume 1, in advance of the July 5th podcast. Of course, we will look forward to talking to you then. Bye bye.
See ya.